Kilometers from Misano to Motegi for a potential title-deciding Grand Prix of Japan. The biggest prize in motorcycle racing is on the line, with all eyes on Marc Marquez to see if he can wrap up a 7th MotoGP title as Ducati look to dominate at the home of Honda again. We're ready for a decisive duel in Japan. It's time to race in MotoGP. Good afternoon and welcome back to Japan. Welcome back to the Mobility Resort Motegi, the home of Honda, of course. Where 3 times previously on board a Honda, Marc Marquez right here in Japan has been crowned MotoGP World Champion. Time to change, time to different, aren't they now in Monday MotoGP? Because for the 4th time here at this great motorsport venue, Marc Marquez now, of course, on a factory Ducati can clinch the MotoGP World title. It'll be lights out for the Premier Class battle over 24 laps in just under 2 hours' time. Coming up next, though, is the latest episode, the latest installment in what is turning out to be a real fascinating battle for Moto2 glory in 2025. A battle which continues to rage between championship leader Manu Gonzalez, who of course was victorious here in a rain-affected Moto2 battle in Japan 1 year ago. I'm just looking out of our commentary box window to see some rather ominous grey clouds starting to gather once again above this Motegi circuit. Gonzalez on pole position after being the winner here last year. 39 points clear he is of his 2 closest championship rivals, Diogo Moreira and Aaron Canet, who's had an absolute nightmare. There is Canet on the 44 bike. What a shocker he's had so far here this weekend in Japan. Maybe it's a 4-horse race for glory in 2025. Let's not discount the impressive Belgian Barry Baltus, an excellent 2nd in Misano last time out, behind home hero Celestino Vietti. Baltus only 54 points adrift in this Moto2 title chase, with 6 rounds still remaining. Matt Burt, then Lewis Suddaby and Jack Appleyard bringing you all of this live coverage of this 19-lap Moto2 battle here in Japan. We hope it's going to be a 19-lap battle because we've got a few eyes skywards at the moment. There was a brief rain intervention in the earlier Moto3 battle. The race was not stopped. Don't worry, no spoilers in the commentary box here, but there was a few spots of rain that did just potentially threaten some serious disruption to our opening exchange on this race day number 17 then in 2025. Title contenders then, Gonzalez on pole position, Diogo Moreira 2nd in the standings, he fires away from the middle of the 2nd row in 5th, and then Aaron Canet, well, he needs binoculars to see the lights go out here in Motegi. 22nd on the grid. That is the Spanish line. That's courtesy of a couple of grid points as well, I believe. Let's go down those straight away to Jack Appleyard and our pole start from our championship leader, Manu Gonzalez.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be a big day today for Manu. Starting from pole, pace looks excellent, but looking up to these skies, clouds coming across, does that come into your thinking at all when you're trying to plan for this race ahead?
Well, I think it's not a new thing for me, but yeah, we hope that this is a normal dry race, so our plan is to go first and
The pole starter, Gonzalez. 2 Aspar riders, 2 rising stars in Moto2 alongside him on the front row, Holgado and Alonso. Well, as mentioned, Lewis, massive task for Aaron Canet to keep himself firmly in the championship picture. 22nd on the grid at the head of row 8. He's only there having qualified 23rd because of the penalty that came the way of Jorge Navarro. It has been an absolutely dismal weekend, hasn't it, so far in Japan for Canet?
Yeah, hadn't been looking great before qualifying. He had a crash on Friday afternoon which plunged him into qualifying 1. And if it sounds bad for Aaron Canet, it's really bad. It's as bad as it's ever got for him in Moto2 in his 105th Moto2, 104th, should I say, Moto2 start today. That is Aaron Canet's worst ever qualifying.
Has to be one of the worst ever qualifying performances of his entire Grand Prix career. Having no dramas, having no issues right now is 20-year-old Spaniard Dani Holgado. Bit of a blip early on Friday morning here in Japan when he had a crash at turn 10. But since then, he's been superb once again. Holgado, of course, 3 podiums in the last 4 Grand Prix, including that brilliant victory in Catalonia. Well, he was super fast, wasn't he? Throughout practice, Jake Dixon, fast in both sessions on Friday, fastest on Saturday morning. He goes away from 6th place on the grid, does the Brit, and he joins Jack on the grid.
Jake, been a great weekend so far, really fast on Friday and on Saturday, but these conditions aren't ideal. I don't think we're expecting any rain. Can you plan for it at all?
My day's all the better for seeing you now. At least I'm not laughing this time. No, it's been a great weekend. Just didn't quite have the out-and-out speed for that last little bit in qualifying, but got great rhythm. I'm going to get stuck in today, and yeah, it's going to be a great race.
Have fun.
Cheers.
Jake Dixon, of course, was on pole position here last year when he was one of several riders that was on wet tyres, which ultimately proved to be the wrong choice. And now then, there's been so much focus on the top 3 in the championship, Gonzalez, Moreira and Canet, with some justification because they have been the standout trio of the season so far. But I think it is fair to say, Lewis, that we can't discount Barry Baltus from that championship picture. 54 points behind Gonzalez, just 15 behind both Moreira and Canet. A whole bunch of podiums so far this season, still searching for that breakthrough third win. But Baltus quite clearly is in the hunt for the championship.
Yeah, he's going to have to start winning, though, if he's going to chase down that 54-point gap to Manuel Gonzalez. But you're absolutely right. If we're considering Moreira and Canet title versus Gonzalez, we have to consider Baltus 1-2, given that he's just 15 points further back. Had that San Marino Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago been 1 lap longer, we might well have been talking about Barry Baltus as the Moto2 winner. He, like Canet, his teammate at Fantic, with it qualifying 1 yesterday. Baltus, though, was successful through Q1 to get himself on row 3.
Well, we've talked about our top 2 on the grid. Manuel Gonzalez and Dani Holgado, 2 informal Spaniards. Brilliant job by our reigning Moto3 world champion David Alonso, the 19-year-old Colombian, starting on the front row of a Moto2 battle for the first time. Well, there are a few Brits that have made a very, very long journey over to Japan to roar on Jake Dixon. David Alonso, brilliant performance to get himself on that front row. Last 6 finishes all top 10 for the 19-year-old, but one of the stars at the moment in Moto2 is another rookie, Dani Holgado, on the front row with Jack.
Danny, you're in great form at the moment. You must be loving riding your bike right now. What's possible today?
Yes, today will be a very good race, I think, because we have a good opportunity to keep learning on this way. Yeah, very, very happy with my second position here yesterday in the qualifying, but with the race, I'm ready to fight. Let's see, we can do it. Thank you.
He is ready to fight. We've talked about his golden podium run, podiums in 3 of the last 4. He's been pretty strong on Saturdays as well. He's qualified top 2 now in 4 of the last 5 Grand Prix. He has been, in many respects, probably with Baltus, one of the surprise sensations of 2025. 3rd here at Moto3 in 2023, 4th there last year, so he knows his way to
Started the front of row 4 in 10th place, was up in the top 3 on Friday, even if he had his best lap times ultimately cancelled due to some incorrect tyre pressures. He has his fans too. The number 28 former Moto3 champion, of course, does feel as if he's got some genuine podium potential. And could we say the same about Ayumu Sasaki? He starts from a career best 8 despite a crash in qualifying. Let's get his pre-race thoughts with Jack.
Yeah, what a weekend it's been on home soil so far, Ayumu. I imagine really excited for this.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good to be back home, and the speed is much better than last year, so that's good. And going over to the Japanese fan is great. And yeah, it's been good 2 days. Now we have a race. Yesterday I made a mistake in the qualifying,
so we have to learn from that. And today we just try to finish the race, and hopefully we can stay with the home.
Have fun.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks to 24-year-old Japanese rider Yuma Sasaki, who has had a couple of spills so far this weekend. As he mentioned, that one in qualifying yesterday at turn 3. When he has been upright, Sasaki, he has been very, very fast in front of his home crowd. He was second quickest here on Friday afternoon. A Moto3 podium finish himself here back in both 2022 and in 2023. False last time out in San Marino, and a 6-point finish of his Moto2 career for Sasaki.
That Q2 crash was the second of 2 crashes for Sasaki yesterday. There is one of 2 riders who've been booted 9 places back down the grid. Mario Aggi and Jorge Navarro, as Matt mentioned, the second of those has at least given Aaron Canet one fewer rider to overtake from 23rd on the grid up to 22nd. Tyre information has already come through from Pirelli, and it will be very easy to remember. Every rider in the field is on the soft front and the super soft rear.
Yeah, you are starting to feel a little bit for Canet's prospects of reeling in Gonzalez in the latter stage of this world title battle. No podium in the last 6 for the 25-year-old Spaniard, his longest podium drought since 2021, and no win in 12 since the Qatar Grand Prix. Yeah, thumbs up in the crowds, thumbs up from others in the commentary box as well. Let's hope it's a thumbs up as well for the number 71, Yuma Sasaki, who they were home fans clearly showing their allegiance for there in the grandstands. There's a massive contingent of 79 fans who've been out in force since Friday morning. Of course, a massive day in the career and life for Ayagura, to make his Grand Prix debut in the Premier class in just under 2 hours' time. Of course, the first chance that Ayagura-san has had to race in front of his home crowd since he was crowned Moto2 World Champion in Buriram last October.
It's the second place in this Grand Prix that really did catapult him towards the World Championship in conditions which we can't completely rule out a repeat of this afternoon. Remember when it rained on the first lap, we had that red flag and the confusion about whether to start the restarted race on slicks or on wet tyres. Ayagura, along with eventual winner Gonzalez, made the decision to go on slicks, and boy were they rewarded for that.
Home fans, although we're keeping a close eye on one of their own, Honda team major rider Yuki Kuni, who's had a pretty difficult debut season in the Moto2 World Championship. The 92 finds himself down in 25th place on the grid. Still plenty of support though in the grandstands for the 22-year-old. The 75 then of Alberto Arenas, the 8-year-old Spaniard. He completes row 4 in 12th place. Second here 6 long years ago now in the Moto3 battle in 2019. Only 1 point scoring finish though in 3 attempts here in Moto2 for Arenas. Who has scored points in 13 of our opening 16 Grand Prix, including 8 top 10s. Well, it was right here last year, wasn't it? Where David Alonso won the Moto3 World Championship in spectacular fashion. And he's back here in Japan on the front row of the grid for the first time in Moto2. Alongside him is his Aspar teammate, the informed Danny Holgado, who really has hit a real big purple patch in his rookie season. But from pole position, looking for his first win in 8 since Mugello. Looking for back-to-back wins here in Motegi. It's world champion leader Manu Gonzalez.
Gonzalez took his first Moto2 victory here in Japan a year ago. Can he move a step closer to title glory by going back-to-back in Japan? He starts from a 7th pole of 2025 ahead of Danny Holgado and David Alonso. That first front row for him. Mizano winner Trustino Vietti fourth from Diogo Moreira and Jake Dixon, who was quickest in all 3 practice sessions. Barry Baltus came through Q1 to 7th ahead of Iwi Sasaki, a career best 8th from Colin Vine. 9th, he had a big crash on Friday. Ivan Guevara, Tony Arbolino and Albert Arenas are on row 4 from Ortola, Van den Goldberg and Joe Roberts, who starts 15th. Alonso Lopez, a one podium finisher here 16th from Danny Munoz and Philip Salat, who crashed in Q2. Marcos Ramirez out in Q1 for the 3rd Grand Prix in a row. He starts 19th ahead of Senna Regis, his worst qualifying since Argentina. Huertas next up from Aaron Canet, his worst ever Moto2 qualifying ahead of Binder Escreed, Kunai and Aradre, with Navarro and Aggi completing your grid, having been relegated 9 places.
So a pivotal and absolutely crucial 4-race flyway tour for our Moto2 title contenders about to get underway here. Ali Mobility Resort Motegi, 2-hour drive north of Tokyo. will be hitting the karaoke bars in the vibrant capital later on this evening, celebrating as we head over to Indonesia in just a few days' time. It has been unpredictable. It's been wide open at times, hasn't it? 2025 Moto2 Celestino Vietti last time out in Misano, the 10th different winner of the season, which is actually a new Moto2 record. We'd had 9 winners in 2010, the very first Moto2 season, and last year in 2024. We're going to get an 11th different victor here this afternoon. Well, Barry Baltus will be certainly hoping so from the head of the third row of the grid, because that would certainly fire some more momentum in what is already a very strong championship charge as far as the Belgian is concerned. That's how the land lies then in terms of the championship, with 6 to go this season. Gonzalez 39 points clear of both Moreira and Connect. Baltus then a further 15 points back in 4th place. Jake Dixon is 5th in the World Championship, but he's a further 21 points behind Baltus. Still waiting that official confirmation. It's pretty much done and dusted for a few weeks now about moving over to the official Honda World Superbike team for 2026. He'll be looking to lead Moto2. A couple more victories, you'd imagine. Now in Connect, well, this is very alien territory as far as the Mark VDS bound Spaniard is concerned. All the way back down on the 8th row of the grid. The top 10 will feel like a massive bonus today, won't it, as far as Connect is concerned. Photographers are ready. We're all ready then for 19 laps of Moto2 action here in Motegi. Your front row, pole position for World Championship leader Manu Gonzalez, winner here 12 months ago. Danny Holgado looking to continue this excellent run of form, and David Alonso, well, he knows what it takes to win here in Moto3 in Motegi. A victory here 1 year ago saw him win in Moto3, the World Championship. Here we go then. Lap 17 coming away in Moto2. Lights out, and we're racing in Moto2 here in Motegi. Some brilliant start from the middle of that front row by Holgado. Getting swallowed from pole position right now is Gonzalez. Through immediately has got Vietti. Well, Vietti's got one. That's pushed Gonzalez right out to the paintwork. This has been a nightmare first 2 corners for Gonzalez. There's contact further back there, I think, between Binder and Cooney. But Gonzalez is mid-pack from pole.
And it gets worse than that for Diogo Moreira. To the right is second in the World Championship. Moreira leads the Grand Prix from 5th on the grid. He got it hooked up beautifully off the line. Moreira from the Aspar duo are still 2nd and 3rd.
Gonzalez down in 9th place. Vietti in 10th, coming in the first corner in the braking zone. They were both inside the top 3. Vietti getting aggressive on the inside now. Gonzalez back into turn 5. Traffic is down. That's Munoz. Thankfully, all the field are going to pick their way through. Munoz losing the rear, coming out of turn 5. At the front, though, it's Moreira that leads. Dramatic start here in Japan.
Who was it that sailed? I think it's Vanden Gorberg who went sailing off at the top of the picture into turn 5, and then Munoz crashed on the way out. So Moreira, Holgado, Alonso, now Dixon into 4th place. It's Boscoscoro's 4, 5 and 6, because it's the 2 Blue Crew Pramac bikes next up.
A combination of a real poor start from pole position, and then Vietti's aggression into that first corner. He ran wide, picked up Gonzalez, and that has seen Gonzalez surrender 8 places from his starting position. He's got an awful lot of work to do now, hasn't he? Moreira, Holgado, Alonso, who started alongside Gonzalez on that front row of the grid. Confirmation there on your screens, it was Vanden Gorberg that did crash out, as Arbolino touched it out at the moment with Dixon down the hill in the braking zone for turn 11. Arbolino then now the Italian up into 4th.
Cadet update, he's up into 17th place, so he has gained 5 places off the line, although he's just lost one of those to Gonzalez, his teammate. Center Aegis doing a turn for his teammate. Not a lot has gone right for Gonzalez on this first lap, but at least Aegis is keeping Connect back.
So Arbolino not close enough to attack Alonso on the brakes into that first corner. There is Dixon in 5th place. He was so strong, wasn't he? Led all 3 practice sessions pre-qualifying yesterday, as Holgado's going on the inside of Moreira on the brakes into turn 3. He's made that stick. Beautiful move by Holgado, and just like he did in Catalunya, he hits the front early.
So the 27 now leads from 10. Alonso and Arbolino still going head-to-head behind this. We're now looking forward from Moreira, who needs to try and take full advantage of Gonzalez's problems. Arbolino does now go through on David Alonso. Arbolino into the podium spots. We haven't said that much this year.
Gonzalez's first lap nightmare was Well, it cost him 1.6 seconds. That was the gap between the pole starter, the world champion, who's just about to fight through there on Vietti at the back of the picture. He did make it through. Gonzalez then has gone back up into 8th place. David Alonso's going the wrong way early on, isn't he, in this Grand Prix? Picked off now by Dixon.
So he's now back to 5th place, is the Moto3 world champion as his teammate leads the Grand Prix. The top two already putting some distance between themselves and Arbolino, who himself is moving forwards. We're trying to pick out Gonzalez to see if there's any sign of progress for him. He's still in 9th place behind Celestino Vietti. He's in a Boscascoro sandwich with Ortola behind him.
Yeah, not a bad start this by Ortola, up 3 places early on into the top 10 from 13th spot. Down the hill we go then into the 90-degree corner. Lap 2 of 19. Holgado leading, coming from a long way back there. Guevara trying to find a way through on Alonso. Struggling here as he tries to get temperature in those tyres and with a full fuel load. Alonso suffering a little bit.
It's been his weakness throughout the season. Of course, he managed to get over that yesterday on fresh tyres to get a qualifying time in. But usually we wait until around mid-race distance to see David Alonso's best work.
Yeah, if he's in the mix, if he's in the picture late on, or do not discount the Colombian. Holgado's got some sensational early pace here, Andy Motegi, the first and only rider in the 148s. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, 4/10 quicker he was than Moreira, and that includes an overtake right here at turn 3 on the Brazilian.
A little bit of a snap there for Alonso into 3, but he did hold off Guevara. Of course, Holgado admitted that he perhaps got a little bit overexcited, like a kid in a sweet shop early on in Misano, used too much tyre and then found himself under late pressure. Of course, it was Moreira who nearly caught him on the final lap in Misano. At the moment, though, Holgado doing a very solid job. His lead is approaching half a second now.
As you can see on that timing chart on the left-hand side of your screens, Gonzalez is now 2.3 seconds back of Holgado at the front of this Grand Prix. They started, of course, side by side on the front row of the grid. Just a clear indication of just how poor the start of this Japanese Grand Prix has been for Gonzalez at the moment. He's coming off the worst of this early battle with Mazzano winner Vietti.
Still an awful long way to go, but he's blowing a major opportunity at the moment. Given where he started and his other title contenders started, Moreira, even in 2nd place, would gain 13 points on Gonzalez from there. And of course, even Baltus would gain points on Manuel Gonzalez because he's 2 bikes up the road.
Holgado is stretching his legs at the front of this Grand Prix, isn't he? He's over half a second clear now, and Moreira for the first time. It's been a real strong lap from Holgado, having hit the front. He really is just trying to get his head down here now and see what the chasing pack have got behind him. We pick up then Gonzalez. This is the race. It wasn't really a sluggy start off the line by Gonzalez as he drops the clutch and starts arrowing that Triumph engine sideways. You can just see Vietti got a great launch directly behind him. Holgado in the middle of your picture. 5 abreast. In 5 abreast, they run down the first corner. You can just see Gonzalez go back to just briefly rolled off there as Vietti trucked in front of his front tyre. But at this point, the pair of them then got dropped to almost outside of the top 10. Or Vietti through the Iron Eagle. They wanted between Holgado and Gonzalez.
Just didn't accelerate forwards, did he? And there was Vietti's problem, which of course then hung out to dry Gonzalez, who was stuck on the outside. Guevara.
Moto2 RACE Japanese Grand Prix laps chart. MotoGP Race Grand Prix Japanese Grand Prix laps chart.
So who has now set his personal best lap of the Grand Prix. He's settling into this now.
Holgado is making this look like a cinch at the moment here. He's 7/10 ahead now of Moreira. Once again, he's the only rider that's in the 48s. Back-to-back laps to the 48s. We lost center ages. The Aussie has gone down, looks pretty heavy. Covered in dust, isn't he there? And dirt is the Australian down at turn 3.
Meanwhile, Gonzalez has now passed Celestino Vietti. Here he is now, 18 ahead of 13. So Gonzalez now up into 8th place. He is 2.5 seconds off the race lead, and a lot of bikes to overtake. He's going to get himself back to where he started, and Vietti's trying to come back at him on the inside. Vietti's not interested at all in Manuel Gonzalez's World Championship hopes as he now retakes that P8.
Gonzalez trying to get some instant retaliation on the brakes into turn 10. He's going for he's gone for the block pass, and he could be in hot water. He could be in a real spot of bother here. We'll have to try and look at the replays. But Vietti has gone down. He's clearly frustrated the Mazzano winner. Gonzalez came from a long way back. Red mist, frustration.
Well, remember Silverstone when, of course, Gonzalez had a rotten start from pole position and was impatient trying to pass Barry Baltus. Here he is up the inside. Vietti comfortably ahead. He's halfway alongside, but right straight into the side of Celestino Vietti.
Took his right arm, his handlebar from him, didn't he? Looked like from that camera angle, we'd like to see maybe the camera on the outside of turn 10, but yeah, Gonzalez, the steward's going to be all over that, and he could
gave him plenty of room.
Yeah, he did. Well, Gonzalez then, that was just the fact that he'd not been able to break that battle with Vietti, and that was just a little bit of red mist. What did he say to Jack on the grid? This is all about a race to use your head, be calm and composed. Well, he's really paying and suffering, isn't he, for that start. Holgard at the moment, he just wants it. This is like Catalonia all over again. He's on a different level, a completely different league is Holgado. 3 laps in a row now. He's been in the 48s. At the moment, there's not a single other rider in this Grand Prix that's been in the 48s.
And his teammates under pressure. This time he does lose the place, albeit briefly, to Ethan Guevara, who was into P5 for all but a split second before he crashes at turn 5.
Yeah, Gino Borsoi, part of the Prima Yamaha MotoGP operation, of course, frustrated as Guevara then goes down. We've lost some of our leading contenders already, haven't we, in this Grand Prix. Vietti down now, Gonzalez down.
That's not the first turn 5 front-end washout of this Grand Prix weekend, so some sympathy for Ethan on that one, but he's missed a major opportunity as Gino Borsoi and Paolo Pavesio of Yamaha watching on closely. They were hoping for a genuine podium threat from him. All their podium hosts now rest on the shoulders of Tony Arbolino.
Shows just how hard he was having to work that front tyre to make the move through on Alonso. The front tyre, unfortunately, crying no more. There is Jake Dixon, who's sort of been stuck in that 4th place for much of this Grand Prix. Very, very quickly, Holgado, maybe at the end of this lap 5 of 19, will be 2 seconds clear of the field. Absolute demolition job he's doing on the field at the moment. Is he still going to be in the high 148s? He's going to come over the line very, very soon. Further back, yeah, he is, now 48.8. Vietti and Gonzalez currently under investigation. Big call this in terms of the championship. Holgado once again, lap 2 148, lap 3 148, lap 4 148, lap 5 another 148, and still nobody else in the race is able to match that speed.
If Manuel Gonzalez gets a long lap penalty from there, that'll drop him somewhere back towards Lopez in 12th place. If he gets a double long lap penalty, he'll be back with Aaron Canet in 15th place.
Joe Roberts becomes our latest early victim in what's already turning out to be a bit of a race of attrition here, isn't it? In Motegi, Moto2 wise, with Holgado checked out of the front, it's now down to Arbolino, Moreira, Dixon and co to fight it out for the remaining places on the podium. Arbolino has got through, hasn't he? On Moreira, one of the best dry race forces we've seen from Arbolino on a Bosca scorer package, that's for sure.
You know, there's not a lot of competition for Arbolino's 2025 for that particular prize. Baltus is now making his way forwards too. We said before the race, don't sleep on Barry Baltus as a potential World Championship contender, and with Gonzalez potentially in some hot water later in this race, Baltus in 6th place could be making some big gains in the World Championship too.
Canet's just been pushed back out of the points scoring places by Salach. Canet was briefly up into P15, but now he's down in 16th spot. There is Holgado. Our camera operators are doing a pretty good job of keeping him in the same shot as the chasing pack right now. Such is his commanding advantage he's built up the front of this Grand Prix.
Manuel Gonzalez has a long lap penalty for the incident with Celestino Vietti. I think he might be grateful it's only 1 long lap and not 2, because of course we have seen incidents with Manu already this season. So give him 3 seconds from where he currently is, and he's going to drop out of the top 10.
Big chance this to feel for Moreira in terms of the championship. Very, very quickly he'll see on the dashboard the message from race direction. Gonzalez then at the moment on the road in 7th place. There he is, causing a crash. Long lap penalty for Gonzalez. Arbolino picks his way through turn 3. Just ahead on the road then of Gonzalez is that battle between Baltus and Alonso. Holgado over the line was 2.8 seconds clear of Arbolino. First time in the Grand Prix since the standing start of lap 1. Holgado back in the 49s. Now we were just talking about what an open goal this was almost like in terms of the championship for Moreira. Well, he's been picked up now by Dixon on the brakes into 5.
Yeah, he's reversing back at the moment as if he's got the handbrake on in this Moto2 race. Moreira then 13 points available for 4th place, and of course 3 riders up the road who are not in championship contention. So we've now got Moreira 4th, Alonso 5th, Baltus 6th, Gonzalez 7th. Baltus shaping up for a move ahead of David Alonso as well. Remember how strong Baltus was late in the race in Misano.
The slowest lap of Holgado's race was still half a second faster than Arbolino in 2nd. It was almost a full second quicker than Moreira in 3rd place. Of course, Moreira was overtaken by Arbolino. Further back, there is Ortola in 8th, Arenas 9th. We've got then Colin Vire running in 10th place, another strong top 10, maybe beckoning for the rookie, the Red Bull KTM Aya. Philip Salach, he found his personal best lap of the Grand Prix, 149.7. That enabled him to get through on Canet, the 15th spot.
And so at the moment, Aaron Canet is scoring absolutely nothing in this Grand Prix. Another 49.2 for Danny Holgado, with clear track ahead of him. Arbolino pulling him a 49.6. And we've got Moreira now in the 50s. Diogo Moreira, we have seen him in some trouble recently in Grand Prix, but he somehow manages to show his tenacity and his bravery to stick at it at the front of the field. He's got to draw upon those reserves again to keep himself in this podium battle.
This is an absolutely top-notch performance being fired in by Arbolino. He was under the surgeon's knife immediately after the last round in Mazzano for arm pump surgery. And I think there's a lot of concerns maybe. Well, how would the upper limbs hold up in these heavy braking zones? Well, no problem. This is the reason why world championship leader Manu Gonzalez got an excursion through the long lap penalty loop. Contact with Vietti up at turn 10. Second time Vietti's been cleaned out of a podium battle by a Dynamite ride. Of course, round 1 at Thailand, it was Senna Aegis, wasn't it? It's Holgado then now already through the picture as your runaway race leader. He's over 3 seconds clear now of Arbolino. Arbolino's got a bit of a breather back to Dixon's. Gap between those two just under 6/10.
And with Vietti out of the Grand Prix, Holgado does go on to win this race, which is still a long way away from being achieved, not even a half distance yet. Holgado would go up ahead of Vietti into 6th place in the World Championship, and he would almost rubber stamp the Rookie of the Year prize too. So a lot at stake here potentially for Danny Holgado leading this Grand Prix. We're still waiting, by the way, for Manu Gonzalez to serve his long lap penalty. I think the next lap is his last opportunity, otherwise he'll be in further trouble.
Yeah, he will be in more trouble. He's been up at it already, hasn't he, so far today? There is Baltus, who has been a spectator on the rear tyre of Alonso for so much of this Grand Prix. Hasn't really been able to get right on par with the number 80 ahead of him to make any kind of significant move in that battle for 5th place. Gonzalez in there, he is in 7th. Holgado over at the line, 3.4 seconds clear of Arbolino. 49.5 for both Arbolino and Dixon. That's keeping that gap between those two around half a second, 6/10 of a second. All eyes then, isn't it, now right now, on the number 18 bike of Gonzalez. Behind Baltus, charging now towards the long lap penalty loop at turn 3. Here he goes into 30.
Don't shoot it.
Steady on. He was on the front brake and the rear brake there, wasn't he, to get that stopped going into the long lap penalty. He drops then back in behind Albert Arenas. So Gonzalez down to 9th.
On 9th place now, of course, with everyone else behind him moving up. So not as bad as it could have been there for Gonzalez. I guess he was using all of his 3 laps grace that he had to just try and pull clear of the group behind him so he wouldn't lose as many places and have as many traffic to clear. So 9th place, which is back where he was essentially at the start of the Grand Prix after that disastrous first sector.
Canet just can't get himself into the point scoring places. Woeful weekend for Canet. He's doing 150s at the moment. A 150.1 on the last lap. He's got to be careful because Darren Binder behind him just set his fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's only 3/4 of a second clear of the South African is Canet. He's slipped almost 7/10 behind Ramirez, who now occupies that final point scoring place.
So signs of the advantage that Holgado had at the front sort of stabilising now. Of course, the gap in terms of lap times was as small as it's been in the whole Grand Prix, only a couple of tenths quicker than Arbolino, and so far on this lap the gap has barely grown. It's gone from 3.4 to 3.5. So Holgado's early charge has now got to a stage where he can just manage this through the second half of this Grand Prix. Just make sure he saves some of that super soft SCX rear tyre for the second half of this Grand Prix. He's got 3.5 seconds to play with.
Potentially a real damaging day in terms of the championship for Canet. He could be losing another 7 points right now to Gonzalez. Out of turn 2 through the Motegi Sunshine goes Holgado. Miles clear of the pursuing pack, which is still led by Tony Arbolino. Yeah, Holgado's pace is just ever so slightly tailing off. Of course, he was so strong, 4 or 5 laps in the 148 to establish his big buffer at the front. As you were then behind him, Arbolino 2nd, Dixon 3rd. He's got Moreira, Alonso and Baltus for company. Baltus then 1.8 seconds clear of Ortola. At 152.1 was Gonzalez's lap through the long lap. So if you compare that to our race leader, Holgado, he lost 2.5 seconds after the penalty for the Vietti contact.
And given the way he was slipping backwards, Moreira has done what he's done on so many occasions this season and rallied and rebounded, and he's kept himself in that group. Moreira's now doing the same lap times as the leaders on a 1:49.7. The top 6 in this race, there was only a 1/10 of a second covering all of their lap times last time around. So we've got a 5-way battle at the moment for second place behind our runaway leader.
Holgado's last 4 Grand Prix, second from pole position in Austria, the win from pole in Catalonia, third from pole in Misano, and he's cruising to get another victory and podium here in Motegi. Danny Holgado, since the summer break, I don't know where he went on his holiday, but he has been absolutely sensational. Gonzalez then at the moment has not been able to find a way back through on Ortola or Arenas, but he has closed right down now on the former Moto3 world champion. Should be making light work of those two ahead of him. Dixon's got second. He's finally got through back on Tony Arbolino.
Yeah, Arbolino's made a mistake.
Yeah, he must have made a mistake. Arbolino was in the leader 150.7. Did Arbolino flop his braking on the markers down in the hill into turn 11. Dixon at 149.9. Holgado back in the sort of mid 149s. 3 rides on that last mid 49s. Holgado, Dixon and Moreira.
Well, the evidence of practice later on the weekend, it looked like the 2 clear riders at the front were going to be Gonzalez and Dixon. Dixon is now into second place, but I don't think anyone, with the greatest of respect, expected Holgado. I think some expected that he might lead the Grand Prix, but not to the extent that he is. The thick end of 5 seconds now up the road. That was the moment for Tony Arbolino, who was nearly sent to the skies coming into the final corner.
Ride it, cowboy. Yeah, you do wonder as well, bearing in mind that it was less than a fortnight ago that Tony Arbolino was having, that was the moment on board with Dixon. Great replay that, wasn't it? As we look from the Brit ahead to Tony Arbolino. He did well to save it and stay on 2 wheels ahead of Arbolino. You just wonder late on whether sort of fatigue might be an issue for him, having had that recent arm pump surgery.
Gonzalez now up into 8th place, by the way. He has passed Arenas on this 11th lap of 19, although more yellow flags have come out somewhere in the 3rd sector, so we'll keep a close eye. It's Darren Binder, whose name is dropping down the order. The rider who, of course, took his first ever Grand Prix podium here way back when. Unfortunately, won't be adding any points for Cassini in Moto2 today.
Still nothing going in terms of vital points as far as Kinet's concerned. He laps now as he's been stuck in that 16th place. Coming back to him is Adrian Fuertas, who's back down now in 14th spot. Over the line we go then. We're on lap 12 of 19. Danny Holgado's lead now is up to 4.6 seconds. He's still comfortably in those 149s. Dixon then, having accepted the gift from Arbolino going through victory corner a couple laps to go, now is about half a second clear of the Italian behind him.
This is our 5-way battle. Looks like Baltus is struggling to match this pace. He's now over half a second in drift of Alonso. Baltus in 6th place, so he would score 10 points if he comes across the line there. That would move him to within 5 of his teammate Aaron Kinet, the 3rd in the World Championship. Moreira, of course, would be a clear 2nd if he finishes 4th. That would take him on to 201 points. Gonzalez with 8 points, 235. So the gap would come down from 39 to 34 in the advantage of Gonzalez.
Here is Gonzalez and now trying to get his way back through on Ortola. They'll bank it hard left there now through 7. Clearly Gonzalez at the moment has the superior pace. You just saw with the corner speed going through 6 and 7 hours, able to just eat up the gap between himself and his fellow Spaniard. Well, he might just going to be ascending on the inside of Ortola there, going into 9.
He'll be making sure that every move he makes now is absolutely squeaky clean, having already found himself in the long lap penalty loop for being a little bit too impatient and over-aggressive in his attempts to pass Chelsea Vietti right here into turn 10. So Manny Gonzalez, of course, it is a missed opportunity. There's no other way of slicing it, but he can still salvage some very useful points from what has been a miserable afternoon so far.
Another good ride this by Ortola, potentially on course for his 5th top 10 of the season in his rookie year. Fellow rookies Alonso and Holgado grabbed so many of the headlines. You can see how hard Ortola's having to work to keep Gonzalez behind him, charging in a little bit hot there. Down the hill into turn 11, he was on the outside curve. Now, can he get the rear grip, get the traction? on Ortola to try and line up a move on the brakes into the first corner. I think Ortola's going to have him covered off on this braking zone into the first right-hander. He does indeed. And more pressing matters maybe emerging once again here for Gonzalez, because Arenas has jumped back into this battle.
Yeah, that little overshoot into the victory corner, into the V corner, should I say, at the end of the back straight, that drew Gonzalez in and made the same mistakes. That's brought Arenas right back onto the tail of him. Then next behind him is Vaya in 10th place, Sasaki 11th. So not quite the heady heights of Friday when he was up inside the top three. Lopez 12th from Santos Ramirez, and Canet has retaken that final point now from Puertas.
On board then with Gonzalez. That is a clean move. He had to make it clean as a whistle. Then on the brakes into turn 5 through on Ortola. So Gonzalez then now up into P7. That might be as good as it gets as far as the World Championship leader is concerned, because there's a fairly decent gap then to Barry Baltus in 6th. Yeah, Gonzalez 2.2 seconds adrift of the Belgian. So well, that could be as good as it gets then on this Sunday in Japan for the World Championship leader.
Well, at least what we will find out now is just how much pace Gonzalez would have had if he'd been in clear air at the front of the Grand Prix and he'd not made that awful start. Worth asking the question whether he would have had the pace to defeat Daniel Holgado today with the incredible performance he's showing out at the front of the race. For the first time though, his lead is starting to come down a little bit. Dixon was a shade faster last time round to close the gap to 4.5 seconds. It's now down to 4.3 through the third sector, but Holgado has got plenty of margin to manage this over the final 6 laps.
Yeah, he'll just be easing off ever so slightly, just making sure that he's got ample rubber for the crucial tail end of this Grand Prix. First time then on lap 13 of 19, Holgado is back in the 150s, and it feels like for the first time in this Grand Prix that someone actually behind him has lapped quicker. Dixon now is the only rider that's in the 149, so it is some pretty impressive late pace being delivered by the Brit for Mike BDS Racing.
50.1 for Manu Gonzalez versus a 50.5 for Barry Baltus, who I said was drifting away from the 5-way battle that he was at the tail of for second place. Baltus has got a big role to play here, not just for himself in terms of the World Championship, because he's still contending, of course, but Aaron Canet, who's on course for 1 point at the moment. Fantic will be rather keen for Baltus to keep Gonzalez at bay if the 18 does catch it.
Track limits incoming for Puertas. And now Philip Salach further down the order. Salach 13th, Puertas now out of the points in 16th. Here is Sasaki-san in front of his home crowd. Looks like the top 10 might elude Sasaki, because over the line on that last lap he was 1.4 seconds behind Vaya. Looking for just his 7th point scoring finish in his 33rd Moto2 start. Sasaki
up ahead of him. Vaya is now catching this battle with Ortola and Arenas. Last time around, Vaya was a quarter of a second or so quicker than the riders up ahead of him, as Arenas now goes in a little bit hot into turn 10, but that does at least give you a good exit as you square off the corner down towards the back straight. The leader Holgado then continues to hold firm at around 4.25 seconds partway through this 14th lap. It's just all about a concentration exercise, man. As once again Arenas gets a little bit squirrely, and this time he overshoots the hairpin in the back straight. Vaya right on top of him now.
That ain't the way you break and tackle turn 11, is it? As far as Albert Arenas is concerned, and now he's got real big problems brewing behind him as Colin Vaya takes advantage of that mistake. Holgado then still 4.2 seconds clear at the front. 5 to go here then. Here in Motegi, Tony Arbolino, it's resisting the pressure from behind. Hang on to that 3rd place. Well, look at Arenas spinning up that Pirelli rear tyre, going through 1 and 2. Looks like he really is suffering with a lack of rear grip at the moment. Is Arenas. Alonso in 5th. Haven't really seen any forward progress made at this stage of the Grand Prix by Alonso. He's only gone backwards so far in this race, which is quite an unusual thing to say, because we know the Colombian's forte is right at this very juncture of races, when on well-worn tyres, he really does start to come on strong.
Of course, running in traffic for the Grand Prix can't have done any good for his front tyre, both the temperature, the pressure and the wear of it. Moreira, though, now right on top of Arbolino. He's got to make this move now. There's a podium up for grabs here for Diogo Moreira, and crucially, 3 extra championship points by going from 4th into 3rd. And if he is going to try and take this World Championship to Manu Gonzalez in the closing stages, those are the kind of moves he must make.
Got to feel that having had that invasive arm pump surgery just a few days ago, coupled with all the vicious hard braking zones here in Motegi, fatigue and a bit of tiredness and maybe a little bit of discomfort and pain is going to start proving to be an issue late on for Arbolino. Fair play to him. He's produced a heroic ride to keep himself. Yeah, you just saw there he moved at the right time as he exited turn 10, so clearly he is just starting to suffer a little bit late on here in Arbolino. Massive respect to him for keeping himself in this podium battle for as long as he has.
Yeah, still very much on course for his best try result of 2025, although he was really struggling there coming through 12. He was wide through 12, and he's now under pressure, further pressure from Alonso. He'll be desperate to see that checkered flag. Bad news, Tony, you've still got 4 more laps to complete.
Yeah, look at him, he's shaking his head. He just can't keep the right arm into the sort of optimal riding position. He keeps trying to stretch it out. There's lots of moving with the right arm. He's really struggling at the moment, Arbolino, in the 51. Again, he's going to have to really grit his teeth here, isn't he, Tony Arbolino? You can imagine that arm. Maybe it's just the arm swelling inside the leathers and inside the glove. That may be something that he's having to deal with late on here.
Of course, in terms of the World Championship, that could also be an important factor, because he might well reverse back towards Gonzalez yet, who did a 50.1. Alonso now through on Arbolino, who might well drop out of the top 6. Gonzalez is going a second a lap quicker than Arbolino. He's even a half-second quicker than Baltus and Alonso. And Gonzalez is still motoring towards potentially a 4th or a 5th here.
Arbolino is really suffering here late on. He will do exceptionally well to keep himself inside the top 6. There is Moreira then, who was charged away from Alonso. Has had nothing though, has he? I thought Jake Dixon, 2.5 seconds behind. They've strung out really at the front of this Grand Prix. Big gaps, 4.1 seconds between Holgado and Dixon, 2.5 then between Dixon and Moreira. Hanging on, literally hanging on for dear life right now, isn't he? Tony Arbolino, more big movements as he tries just to ease the pain and discomfort from that recovering right arm. How on earth did he keep himself in the podium battle for as long as he has?
These 3.5 laps are going to feel like 3 Grand Prix for Tony Arbolino. He's really gritting his teeth here and keeping himself in the mix. Baltus, of course, he needs the points as much as anybody for his World Championship hopes. If he can get through on Arbolino, that would be an extra point. 1 point at the moment is all Aaron Canet, his teammate, is scoring further back. So Arbolino that time once again in the 51s, and again a second slower than Gonzalez, 2 bikes behind him.
Yeah, he's got it all on here, hasn't he, Arbolino, to keep himself inside that top 6. The gap between Holgado and Dixon has just shrunk to under 4 seconds. No great alarm, no need to press the panic button for Holgado, because he's just in the comfort zone, isn't he? He'll just be managing that gap to the front, managing his pace. We're looking there now directly ahead to the suffering Tony Arbolino. We were briefly on board there with Baltus. He will see. He will know exactly the issues that Arbolino is trying to contend with here, and that Baltus will sense that there is a 5th place in the offing.
If that right arm's just going numb on Arbolino, he's trying to sort of shake some feeling into it in these final stages. See the gap that Alonso and Moreira have pulled up ahead. Don't think Alonso is going to necessarily threaten Moreira's podium at the moment. They're doing similar lap times. So watch this now, battle for 5th and 6th, and Gonzalez is now right behind them.
Yeah, this is just a matter of time, isn't it? Before Arbolino. Oh, there you go. Yeah. The white flag's going to come out, unfortunately. Very race soon. He has fought such a great fight. He's doing an absolutely sterling job at the moment just to keep Baltus and Gonzalez behind him. Let's just pick them up now. Out of turn 10, they start motoring through that Triumph gearbox. Arbolino got a great ride, didn't he? Play coming out of that turn 10. Gonzalez coming from a long way back, levels. Baltus on the brakes, down the hill into turn 11. And Manu Gonzalez, well, looking ahead, going, well, Barry, if you're not going to make a move quickly on Arbolino, well, I'll have a pop, mate.
Yeah, so that's now 6th place. Surely that will soon become 5th for Manu Gonzalez. And looking at where this race has settled down into, Manu Gonzalez has just displayed a little bit more patience up behind Chelsea Vietti. He could well have been on the podium today.
I'm sure Holgado is in full control of this Grand Prix at the front of it, but he has just lost a second. He was a second slower than Dixon on that previous lap. Tony Arbolino really is, as we mentioned, suffering. This is going to be the toughest, the hardest. Oh, he was almost down there, wasn't he? The toughest and hardest 5th place potentially he has ever earned in his Grand Prix career. I've actually love it. Justice if he can finish inside the top 6, you feel, for Tony Arbolino, because he's producing heroics at the moment. Gonzalez, though, well, this is just easy, isn't it, really? There's nothing that Arbolino can do, as Gonzalez then picks him off now, going through 5.
It's hurting to watch Tony Arbolino at the moment, no matter how much he must be hurting inside his leathers right now. So Manu Gonzalez, 11 World Championship points he's on course for. In 5th place, he would lose just, and I say just, 5 points to Diogo Moreira if he put the flag out now.
I am sure, I'm still convinced that Danny Holgado is perfectly stage managing this Grand Prix at the front. So I'm just keeping an eye on the sector times though, and Jake Dixon has already found another 3/10 on the Spaniard through the first half of this Motegi circuit. Lap and a half remaining. Tony Arbolino desperately trying to hang on to that top 6. Can Barry Bell just do anything to get through on the Italian?
We'll know that Holgado's stage managing this if he starts waving at the crowd again, as he did partway through the final lap in Barcelona, of course, when he took his first Moto2 victory. This second victory that's coming in a lap in a bit's time, every bit as impressive as the first.
It really has been impressive. He led every single lap at the circuit, the Barcelona Catalunya. He was briefly behind Diogo Moreira at the start of this Grand Prix. There he is, they're moving through your shot, starting the final lap with a 2.6 second advantage over Dixon. Only second right now as far as Dixon's concerned.
Alonso hasn't given up on 3rd place yet. A potential double Aspar podium. He did a 50.1. He's the 2nd fastest rider after Dixon on track at the moment. Here it is, the battle for 3rd place. Valuable points up for grabs here for Diogo Moreira, but Alonso, of course, passed Moreira amongst others on the final lap to win the Hungarian Grand Prix, looking to deal some more late heartache for Diogo.
Dixon's had some really impressive late race speed here. He's reeled off a whole bunch of 49s, hasn't he, Jake Dixon? The problem was, having got stuck in a bit of early traffic, Holgado was able to make that decisive breakaway at the front of this Grand Prix. Holgado has it completely covered off, 2.4 seconds clear of the experienced Brit in 2nd place. Game on though, isn't it, for 3rd? Big World Championship points at stake here as far as Moreira is concerned. As it stands right now, he'll be taking 16 points to Mandalika. He will not want to lose these 3 points, will he, to Alonso?
Alonso's the only bite between Moreira and Gonzalez at this stage of the race. Remember, of course, Moreira was up in 2nd place at the point that Gonzalez served his long lap penalty. They could end up line astern in 4th and 5th at the end of this Grand Prix. But Moreira, as long as he makes no mistakes from here, Alonso's going to have to take some serious risks to pass him.
Way out of your picture in cruise control at the front of this Grand Prix. Now deep into the final sector is Holgado, who has been a cut above here, hasn't he, in Motegi. Alonso is too far back to attack Moreira for the final place on the podium as they go downhill into turn 11. Out of victory corner, there goes Holgado, and it's going to be a 2nd win in Moto2 in 2025 for the brilliant rookie Danny Dominance here in Motegi. He takes the checker flag, 1.3 seconds clear of Jake Dixon. Diogo Moreira, how important, how significant could those 3 points be as he does hold off the hard-charging Alonso for the final place on the podium. Gonzalez, despite his long lap and a poor start after the contact with Vietti, does take 5th place. That feels like that's going to be a very important 5th place. Full respect, just moving through your picture there on the number 14 bike, Tony Arbolino did hold off Barry Baltus. He is suffering big time. Is he taking the glove off already? I'm sure there's numbness, I'm sure there's swelling inside the leathers. Baltus 7th, top 10 through Ortola, Arenas and Vaya. Points for Lopez Ramirez, Salach, Sasaki and Canet 15th. 1 point for the out-of-sort Spaniard. Is that a big blow? Well, it clearly is a big blow, isn't it, in terms of championship as far as Canet is concerned. But Danny Holgado, take a bow. He has been just absolutely sensational. A pleasure to watch over the last 4 or 5 Grand Prix. 2nd in Austria, a breakthrough first Moto2 podium. He followed that up with an utterly dominant performance, a flag-to-flag victory in front of his home crowd in Catalonia from pole position. Pole last time at Mazzano and 3rd, and this red-hot podium streak rolls on. 2 wins now in the last 3. 4 podiums in the last 5. Wow, just absolute. I mean, you just have to doff your cap and say, Danny Holgado, what a hero.
Extraordinary. He was already the top point scorer in the second half of the season. That's only going to extend with his performance today. but Danny Holgado with clear daylight behind him at the end of the Grand Prix. This was the battle on the final lap. Alonso gave it a good go to try and take that third place away from Diogo Moreira. There was just 42 thousandths of a second in it as they crossed the line, but for Diogo Moreira, the finish line came in the nick of time. Alonso had to settle in the end for fourth place, and it will not be a double Aspar podium to go with the double front row for them yesterday. So in terms of the World Championship, it closes up today. Manu Gonzalez missing a trick here at Motegi after a miserable start and some ill-judged overtaking on Celestino Vietti, which led to a long lap penalty. Rather sheepish wave to the Japanese fans here as Aaron Canet powers past him on his way back to the fans in box. Canet scores just 1 World Championship point. Manu Gonzalez scores 11, and here's Aaron Canet starting to fade out of World Championship contention. He is now 49 points back of Manu Gonzalez. Starting to feel like a two-horse race now between Gonzalez and Moreira for Moto2 title glory. But the glory and the victory in Motegi belongs to Danny Holgado, who picks up a standing ovation from the thousands that are here at the Mobility Resort Motegi this afternoon. He crushed the opposition, just as he did in Barcelona. He now moves up to 6th place in the World Championship. Manu Gonzalez walked into the intact box. He said he had to use his head to jack on the grid. Fortunately, it was more a case of losing his head today.
Not a bad day at the office, but it certainly could have been better as far as Gonzalez is concerned. After all the first corner drama when he dropped down to as low as 9th, and then the long lap penalty, I think if you had said to him at that stage you'll be fighting back to 5th, he would have snapped your hands off. Danny Holgado, well, it is all going similarly right now, isn't it, for the Spanish rider. He said after his teammate David Alonso was victorious for the first time in Moto2 in Hungary, it put a bit of a fire in his belly, a bit of a rocket, didn't it, as far as Holgado was concerned. Well, his response has been absolutely phenomenal. Jake Dixon is back on the podium. It's been a bit of a roller coaster run of late, hasn't it? For Dixon, 3rd in the Saxon Ring, 20th in Hungary, 2nd in Catalonia, 16th last time out in Misano. Finding some consistency has been a bit of an issue of late for the Brit. He's had an excellent weekend, fastest in all practice sessions, 2nd in that Grand Prix.
Oh, careful.
Yeah, we've still got a MotoGP part of Moto to run later on, Danny, as they almost wreck up barriers. Pol Espargaro comes to join these celebrations, of course. KTM test rider, working with our Spanish TV colleagues, Dazone. Danny Holgado was very much ensconced with the Espargaro brothers training up in the Andorra Mountains. And that was just another superb performance by Holgado. He did not put a single foot wrong, did he? He could back off, he could just cruise in those last 2 or 3 laps, having established a lead of well in advance, well north of 4 seconds. Just like he did in Barcelona, he made that look so easy. We know it never is, but Holgado was just once again on a completely different level.
It was already his team managers. We look at Tony Arbolino in absolute agony in the box. I was just about to say, it was already Nico Tirol's 37th birthday.
Nico, sorry, perfect birthday. Does it get any better than that?
It's incredible. Yeah, super bonus for me like this.
Moto2 RACE Japanese
because
Grand
my
Prix
birthday
Live
with
Timing.
this result from Danny Saya and also David. We are super happy. They are rookie riders, but they have something special, and we are. This is special, like I say.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Moto2 RACE Japanese Grand Prix Live Timing.
Birthday present. Off goes the samba dancing once again in Parc Ferme for Diogo Moreira. He needed that podium, really, having missed the box in the last 2 Grand Prix after his most recent rostrum in Hungary. And it is just making sure he keeps that pressure on Manu Gonzalez. Had to work hard for it as well. He was almost past late on, wasn't he? by Alonso, who we know always does come on strong late in these Moto2 battles. Here he is, then still firmly in the hunt for Moto2 glory in 2025. Third place here in Japan, Diogo Moreira with Jack.
Diogo, congratulations, another podium, and just how important could that be to keep the World Championship hopes alive?
Yeah, for me it was nice, the race. I think we work a lot this weekend. This track for me is difficult, so finish on the podium I think is a good lesson for me. So I'm very happy about this, and now we need to keep like this, try to make points and try to recover points. But yeah, I think we need to keep like this now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's another very important podium as far as the 21-year-old Brazilian is concerned. Takes his career total to double figures, a 10th podium now for Moreira. That was how close it was at the checker flag at the end of those 19 laps here in Motegi. 0.04 of a second, splitting 10 and 80. Diogo Moreira, well, he's certain to move to MotoGP next season. I know he's been spotted leaving some Honda offices here this weekend in Japan as he looks to finalise his deal to LCR Honda in 2026. Will he be moving up? Will there be a graduation as Moto2 World Champion? Well, we'll find out over the next 5 Grand Prix or so. The ride to beat, the ride to catch at the moment right now is the informed Danny Holgado. Jake Dixon then comes through from 6 on the grid to take a very hard-earned second place. The Brit with Jack.
Jake, it's been a great weekend. I know it's not the victory you would have wanted today, but a lot to be proud of throughout the weekend.
Yeah, 100%. The team's given an amazing bite for the last 4 races. In Misano, I was dreadful. I want to apologise to them for that. And here, they just literally, I wasn't good enough in them early laps. I took too long to get through, and as you can see at the end, my pace was really fast. But yeah, too little, too late again. I'm really annoyed with myself. I'm happy in the sense that we're back on the podium, but I'm annoyed for the boys and girls because at the end of the day, that bike was far good enough to win the race today, and I let it down. So yeah, on to Indonesia, and I will be having a go again.
Great ride, well done.
Well, a very brutally honest assessment from Jake Dixon. The bike was good enough to win today. The rider on top of it was the one that didn't get the job done. As we said in commentary, his late pace was phenomenal. We also said it was all a little bit too little, too late. Got stuck in traffic early on, didn't he? Did Jake Dixon. Just filling in the eye on the rumour doll. That is very much part of Japanese culture, of course.
Manu hasn't.
No, unfortunately, Manu Gonzalez not able to complete back-to-back wins here in Motegi. Unfortunately, drama off the line from that pole position, wasn't there, for the Spanish rider. Still comfortably clear, though, at the top of the Moto2 World Championship. When you get a Daruma, you make a wish or set a goal, then colouring one of its eyes. The Daruma stares at you until you've made that wish come true. Then you fill in the second eye to mark your success. So that's the reason behind Jake Dixon taking a bit of marker pen to his Daruma.
Yeah, more to the point why Danny Gonzalez did not.
There is Jake with his wife Sarah and daughter Summer. He said he'd be looking for a strong end to his Moto2 career. That was the perfect way to kick off our flyweight tour. But once again, for the second time in the last 3 Grand Prix, he has been the hero of Moto2, an unstoppable force at the moment. Danny Holgado, your Japanese Grand Prix winner with Jack.
Danny, where has this speed come from? Another incredible performance from lights to flag. Just sum up the emotions.
Yeah. Super happy with the sorry. No, yes. Super happy with the race. I did amazing race during the second lap after the overtake to Diogo. Yeah, very happy with the performance because this circuit was a bit difficult for me in the first day. Small crash in the first session, but I was working very hard with my team to improve the feelings. Yeah, very happy. This feeling is amazing. 2 victories, 4 podiums of 5 possible in the last 5 races. I don't have words. This is amazing. Thank you to my team, my family. Vamos.
Brilliant ride. Congratulations.
Yeah, vamos, come on, indeed. As he mentioned, 4 podiums in the last 5. Set it up brilliantly with a really good launch away from the middle of that front row of the grid. There was early drama, what turned out to be a bit of a personal joust between Vietti and Gonzalez. Vietti contact on the outside and Moreira going through the first corner. That pushed him, both himself and Gonzalez out wide. Moreira was your brief early leader, but it didn't take too long, did it, for Holgado to wrestle control of the battle. And let's be honest, it was a lead that he never really looked like relinquishing at any stage in that Grand Prix. Easy as you like, wasn't it, here in Motegi for number 27, Danny Holgado, who I have to say is silencing a few critics, and I'm not ashamed to admit I did not see this coming at all from Holgado in his rookie season. Happy to see a rider making full use of a wonderful opportunity. We know that the Aspar team, one of the best outfits outside of MotoGP, aren't they? Fist pump there from Holgado. As he mentioned, his weekend started in real poor fashion. A crash in FP1 at turn 10. He was 24th on the timing screens at the end of FP1. But it was a brilliant bounce back. Just got faster and faster and faster throughout the weekend. And he's just got that ball rolling now. He's in that momentum, that confident cycle where you just feel like you can't do anything wrong. Such a wonderful feeling, isn't it? Such a wonderful thing to have on your side. Confidence and momentum. Danny Holgado has got both in spades right now.
If we look ahead to next season, we see him potentially in a title challenge. It looks like it's going to be a family affair for the Dixons on the podium, as Jake carries daughter Summer up onto the rostrum. Well, she gate crashed the podium interviews in the broadcaster set when Jake Dixon finished second a couple of races ago in Barcelona. This time, potentially, she might lift the trophy. We'll see what happens in a couple of moments' time. But what a birthday present for Nico Tirol. Double front row yesterday, and now Moto2 victory today. But for a half a tenth of a second and maybe one more lap, it could have been a double podium with David Alonso in 4th place, which is not a bad result at all for a Moto2 rookie, but completely dwarfed by Danny Holgado today and his extraordinary performance. Spar of had Moto2 to themselves in many ways since the summer break. That's their 3rd victory now in the last 5. Jake and Summer Dixon then up onto the podium. And that has put a smile on Jake's face after he was rather annoyed at himself in Parc Fermé. But it is Danny Holgado. Well, I think it's probably too far to say that he can't quite believe what's happening, because he's clearly putting in an extraordinary run of results. He's doing it all on his own back with hard work. He's matured so much over the last couple of years. Because he was always a front runner in Moto3. Never quite good enough to get over the hurdle of winning the championship. But he certainly showed us just how good he is as a Moto2 rider this season. 3rd place then to Diogo Moreira. 16 valuable points and a 5th podium of the season, which closes in now on Manu Gonzalez. 34 points the difference with 5 races remaining. Jake, with his one remaining hand, will lift the trophy. One day when she's older, Summer Dixon will look back on these days when she shared a podium with her father. Mayor of Motegi will present the winning trophy, and it didn't really feel in any doubt from lap 1 onwards. Danny's disappearing act as Holgado wins the Japanese Grand Prix by a distance.
The momentum in Motegi firmly with Danny Holgado to take to Mandalika in Indonesia next time around. Jake Dixon wrapping up the podium, making sure his daughter Summer doesn't get a unwanted Prosecco shower. Jake, though, back to toast the celebrations post-race here in the Grand Prix of Japan. That is some way, isn't it, to start the Flyway Tour as far as Danny Holgado is concerned. Quiles, the rising Moto3 star at Aspar, part of the celebrations. Roy Martinez, Aspar there as well. Another really strong weekend, not just for Holgado, but for the Aspar team themselves, of course, Valencia-based. Double front row, almost a double podium. And Alonso just coming up short there at the checkered flag. Photos being taken then at the end of what's been another dominant performance by Danny Holgado.
Second victory of the season, the gap 1.3 seconds, which doesn't really do his dominance justice. He was chilling for the last 2 or 3 laps, in fairness. Diogo Moreira third, valuable points in his title quest. David Alonso very nearly took that away from him, but he finishes 4th. Manu Gonzalez, after quite a few adventures and a long lap penalty for taking out Vietti 5th. Arbolino, a heroic 6th. With issues with his right arm, which is recently operated on. Balta 7th, Altola 8th, Derain Asprai at the top 10, Lopez Ramirez, Salah Sasaki and Aaron Canet completing the point scorers. Canet just scoring a solitary World Championship point today. Here's what it means. Manu Gonzalez lead cut to 34 points with 5 rounds still to go. Is Aaron Canet too far back? Well, he's now 49 points adrift and surely needs a major hot streak in the final rounds to catch Manu Gonzalez. Barry Baltus is 7 points further back in 4th. He, in turn, is 10 ahead of Jake Dixon. Holgado now into the top 6. Constructor standings, Calex's lead is 148 points over Boscoscuro. They, of course, pinched the title last time out at Misano. Just do keep frantic, 29 points ahead of Intact GP, who themselves didn't enjoy their finest day. Mark VDS now just 4 points ahead of Aspar for 3rd. Well, that wasn't the Moto2 battle in Japan that we were quite expecting, was it? Manu Gonzalez with a dreadful start from pole position, the overwhelming pre-race favourite, going backwards from the get-go. As he and Chelsea Vietti drifted wide into turn 1, he was down into 9th place. An early crash for Danny Munoz. Fortunately, his bike missed by the field. Didn't waste any time. Vietti. Dixon threw then on Moreira to take what at the time was 3rd place. Tony Arbolino, of course, at this stage was up the road in 2nd. Gonzalez picking up along that penalty for his collision, which he instigated with Vietti. That dropped him down to 9th place before he made his recovery back to the field. Arbolino, though, with the rear stepping out, that was a sign of some serious physical issues that the Italian was suffering from. He'd already lost 2nd place by that point. With Dixon going through. Diogo Moreira and David Alonso would also soon make their way through on the fast-fading Italian. There was nothing about Danny Holgado that was fading. He was just way too strong today as he takes his 2nd lights to flag victory in the last 3 Grand Prix. Holgado crushes the opposition in Japan. Moto2 will be back in action in a week's time. Up next, though, we begin the countdown to what could be a momentous and historic Japanese Grand Prix for Marc Marquez. MotoGP is up next.
A spectacular madness region closer to Tsutamito and Utsunomiya. The mobility result Motegi was filmed by the Honda Motor Company back in 1997. 5 MotoGP titles have been decided at Motegi, and today could be number 6 as Marc Marquez looks to shine in the land of the rising sun and win a first title in 6 long years. Can the Spanish superstar serve out match point number 1? It's time to race in MotoGP. Mobility Resort Motegi, 2 hours north of the vibrant capital of Tokyo. First Grand Prix was here all the way back in 1999, won then by eventual world champion Kenny Roberts Jr. So much hard braking and hard acceleration zones for the riders to contend with, over 24 laps coming up in the Moto Grand Prix of Japan. Hard braking zones means lots of overtaking opportunities as well around this 4.8 kilometre circuit, one of them being down the hill into turn 11. Turn 1, turn 3 and turn 11 as Brembo categorise this circuit. One of the toughest on the Grand Prix calendar in terms of braking, but just look how many overtaking hotspots there are around this circuit. This was Jorge Martin versus Pecco Bagnaia 2 years ago. More news unfortunately about Martin shortly. So starting from pole position for the first time in the Japanese Grand Prix, revitalised Pecco Bagnaia got the whole shot. Girolamo further down the order as reigning world champion Jorge Martin suffered a fractured right collarbone after big contact with his teammate Marco Bezzecchi. Marc Marquez had to work hard for yet another sprint podium, having come through on both Joan Mir and Pedro Acosta. But for the first time in 2025, from that sensational pole position, Pecco Bagnaia back in business and trying to complete the treble here. It was the Italian that hogged all the Saturday headlines here in Motegi. But today is the big one. Today is one of the biggest days of Marc Marquez's Grand Prix career. The moment of truth has arrived for the 93 here in Japan. He has already clinched MotoGP World titles right here in Motegi. 11 years ago now, all the way back in 2014. 2016 he captured the crown right here in the mountains surrounding this massive Honda-owned motorsport complex. And he was also victorious here to wrap up the championship in 2018. Will it be 7 up? Will it be 7th heaven though? In what a just over an hour and a half time for Marc Marquez. The comeback has been loading, well, pretty much since round 1 at the Chang International Circuit in Thailand, where Marc made a brilliant debut for the factory Ducati team. Pole position, sprint win and the Grand Prix victory in our opening skirmish of the season in Buriram. And since then, it has been nothing but a story of unrivaled success as far as the 6th-time MotoGP World Champion is concerned. It could be the 6th time right here in Motegi that we are crowning a MotoGP World Champion. Ducati's first ever world title success was confirmed here at the then-named Twin Ring Motegi with Casey Stoner all the way back in 2007. Those Japanese fans, some of them also would have witnessed Valentino Rossi win the title here in 2008. The last 3 titles, though, to be decided here in Motegi MotoGP. they all went the way of the 32-year-old Spaniard. 5 years, at times 5 very bleak years, 5 very dark years since Marc Marquez suffered that career-threatening right arm injury, the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez. It has taken him all of this time to get himself back into this position. A position I'm sure at times he doubted he would ever find himself in. Be a champ in Japan, that's the message from some MotoGP fans. Well, he is treading a very familiar path, isn't he? Coming up over 24 laps. It will be lights out in 40 minutes time here in Motegi as we look to crown the first of our 3 world champions in 2025. Matt Burt, Lewis to the beat in the commentary box. Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. He had to work hard for that second place in yesterday's sprint, Lewis. That was a real hard and aggressive move he put on Dranmere, the factory Honda star excelling on sprint Saturday. But the stage is set. Marc Marquez now just has to deliver that 7th MotoGP world title.
It hasn't. I was there, feel to it here this afternoon at the Mobility Resort Motegi. Marc Marquez standing on the brink of career utopia and returning to the very top of MotoGP, a pedestal that he perhaps thought he would never stand on again after the events of Jerez 2020. But he displayed all his fighting spirit and no lack of speed yesterday to come back through to second in the sprint, even if he had to play second fiddle to his returning teammate Pecco Bagnaia, returning to his very best form after a miserable 2025. One more step though for Marc Marquez. If he finishes second, whether it's Bagnaia or Alex Marquez that wins today, second is enough for Marc Marquez to clinch the World Championship.
Without any shadow of a doubt, on the brink of completing one of the greatest comebacks, if not the greatest comeback ever in motorcycle racing. This was 17 years ago in Motegi, 2008, Valentino Rossi winning the Japanese Grand Prix and winning the World Championship. Masao Furusawa, of course, there very much part of so much of Yamaha's resurgence back in the day. The year, of course, prior to that was when Casey Stoner won Ducati's first World Championship here in Japan.
That's on this very day in 2008, September the 28th. 2008 is September the 28th. 2025, the day when Marc Marquez returns to the very top of MotoGP. You feel it's going to take something quite extraordinary for the answer to that to be no, not just because of how he's gone all season, but of course his only remaining rival, younger brother Alex, has had one of his toughest weekends of 2025 so far.
What right now behind the scenes is going through the mind of Marc Marquez? Those fans there dressed in the bright red amp costumes, well, they made a 15,000 kilometre trip all the way from South America in Peru to see if their hero can once again reclaim former glory. Potentially standing in the way, well, no question, potentially standing in the way is Pecco Bagnaia, who has been in red hot form. We had to wait quite a long time for the real Pecco Bagnaia to stand up in 2025. First time yesterday, really, in a sprint or Grand Prix they finished together. We've seen Pecco Bagnaia get the better of Marc Marquez. He made it look very, very easy in that sprint, didn't he? Yesterday, did Bagnaia?
Well, unfortunately, from a Japanese point of view, we have some slightly sad news to bring you on the evening's Japanese Grand Prix. The Japanese Grand Prix will take place without home favourite Ai Ogura. To explain exactly why, we can head down to Jack Appleyard in pit lane. He's with Trackhouse boss Davide Rubio.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Obviously, our attention will turn to that match point for Marc in a second, but a lot of people here today were desperate to see Ai make his debut on home soil, Davide, but that fast crash at Misano was just caused that injury to worsen throughout the weekend. Just bring us up to speed with the latest news.
Yeah, after Misano, he kept working very hard in these couple of weeks, 10 days, to be able to race here in Japan. And he made big effort Friday and also yesterday in the sprint race, but this morning the pain was too much. And probably, of course, it might get a little bit worse after the sprint race. So it looks like very difficult to ride for 24 laps and making even worse. So we decided it hurts. It's a very hard decision, but we had to decide to cancel this race and try to do some more work for looking for Mandalika. Of course, it's yeah, as I say, it's hard. There's so many fans, so many people showing 79, and it's the place where it shouldn't happen. But okay, you know, I think the experience now is teaching everybody else that you need to give up and let the nature to do the job, and you have to take a time to recover. So anyway, we will try to do our best to get. The most important is to get him fully recovered before to race again.
How difficult a decision was that? Did you almost have to step in? Because I know I would have been desperate to be out there today.
Yeah, of course we say that. Yeah, we say for us it's better you don't race because we don't want to make it worse. And also then we had some medical check, and let's say the recommendation was not to race, so it was quite clear, and it's hard to accept, but it is what it is, and that's also part of the racing.
Thanks, Davide, and give our best to I.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. I mean, that would have been, make no mistake, the toughest of tough calls for Iagura to withdraw from his home Grand Prix. Of course, he had a real horrendous 260-kilometre-hour crash in Misano a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, unfortunately, they're probably very much depleted, aren't they? More on the reasons why, as we follow then now, Marc Marquez to one of the biggest days of his Grand Prix career. So many emotions must be running through his mind right now. Of course, this is not his first rodeo. He is a serial world champion. It 125's Moto2 successes, of course, to kick off this illustrious career. 6 MotoGP World Championships, but this one will just hit home that little bit different when you just think of everything that he has been through mentally and physically over the last 5 years. Of course, he left Honda at the end of 2023 when he still had a year left on that lucrative 4-year contract. It's never been about the money. It was never about the money, was it, as far as Marc was concerned? Rumours he gave up 20 million euros for 2024, took a humongous pay cut, joined Brazini, Ducati. He said first and foremost just to enjoy racing again, and then of course with the enjoyment would come the success, would come the winning, and he has been a winning machine throughout 2025.
It's confirmation on Iagura's withdrawal, as explained by Davide Brivio. But Marc Marquez is so adored in Japan, in part because of course his 6 previous MotoGP crowns were all won with Honda. This is the circuit, Mobility Resort Motegi, owned by Honda, and it was with such a heavy heart that Marc Marquez left the Honda stable. He didn't want to leave that Honda team. He wanted to stay there for his entire MotoGP career, but of course the events, particularly building to a head in 2022, saw him with no option. The